Reliability test for multiple choice question exam in SPSS using Kuder Richardson Formula 20 KR20. The test measures the internal consistency of items and score consistency. If a group of students repeat the same exam with the same questions in two different occasions, the scores on both occasions for each individual student are similar, and that indicate score consistency. And the formula to calculate that, the KR20 is equal to K divided by K minus 1. K stands for the total number of questions, and then multiplied by 1 minus summation of P multiplied by Q. P stands for proportion of the correct answer, and Q proportion of the wrong answers for each question, divided by the variance for the total score. Here I have a data from an exam result for 10 students answering 15 questions, multiple choice questions, and the score for each question was recorded as 1 for correct answer and 0 for wrong answer. And to calculate the reliability value for this exam, we need to do a KR formula 20 and use this formula to obtain the reliability value for this test or exam. There is no straight command in SPSS or function that can calculate the KR20, and we had to calculate each component of the formula one by one. So the first step is to calculate the total score achieved by each individual participant or student. And the way to do that is to click on transform, then click on compute, and in the compute window we're going to generate a new target variable. I'm going to call it total score. And in the numeric expression we are going to add all the values achieved by each student for all the 15 multiple choice questions. So we select question number 1 and move it to the box in the numeric expression, then add the plus sign, and then we do the same thing for question number 2, and then we add the plus sign, and so on until adding all the questions from 1 to 15. Going to add 13 here, and then add 14, and finally plus sign, and then 15. And if we click on OK, a new column will be generated or variable called total score, and the value in it is the addition of all the scores for each individual participant. And I'm going just to decrease, if I click on the variable view and decrease the decimal to 0, so I get numbers of total score in this format. Now once we have calculated the total score, the next step using the equation here is to calculate the variance for the total score. And to calculate the variance for the total score is to click on Analyze, then scroll to Descriptive Statistics, Frequency, click on Frequency, and we're going to move the total score to the box variables, and in the statistics we're going to select in this square here, tick on the variance to select the variance for these variable or these data. And if you click on Continue and then click on OK, tables are generated. In the first tables, the variance is calculated for these 10 participants, and the variance for the total score is 24.8. If we double click on that and then select this, right click, copy, move it to here, and we're going to paste this here, and I'm going to reduce the size. So now we have calculated the variance for the total scores. The next step is to calculate P, Q, and summation of P and Q. And to do that, first we need to transpose the data. To do that, we click on Data, scroll down to Transpose, and then I'm going to select all the data and move them into the variable section, and then click on OK, and the data are transposed in a way that the questions now in a row and the student cases are in column. And I'm going just to do some editing here to make things more neater. I'm going to decrease the decimal to 0 for everyone. I'm going to select, copy, and then paste to make them all 0, and I'm going to make all the data centered. So I'm going to select, copy, and then select, and then paste for each one of them. Select again, copy, right click, paste, right click, paste. And we're going to keep the things as scale for all the data. So we're going to make the data scale. So we have all the data in scales, and I'm going to reduce the width of the column to size number 4, and then copy this, and then select, and then paste to make them all four. So if we click on data view here, it's a little bit neater. We're going to change also the label for the variable. Instead of keeping it as variable, I'm going to label it as student. So the way to do that is to select these 10 variables and then click on Control F for find and replace. So I'm going to click on replace, and then I'm going to type var 0 and replace it with S, and I'm going to click on replace all, and then close that. Again, we can see here, if we click on the data view, that the questions are in rows and the student or cases or participants are in column. Now the next step is to calculate the P. P is the proportion of the correct answer, and the way to calculate that is to click on Transform, Compute Variable, and in the window for Compute Variables, we're going to call a new variable, generate a new variable, and call it P. And to calculate the P is in fact the mean since we're calculating the proportion of the correct answer, it means the means, which is the sum of all correct answer divided by the total number of students. Here we have 10 students. And to calculate the mean for that, we click on all and then look for statistical, and then in the statistical function, select the mean, drag the mean, and place it in the numeric expression. In the numeric expression, it has a mean and followed by a bracket, and we need to insert each individual variables here for S1 into the between the brackets one by one, and each one separated from another by comma, and we need to do that for the whole 10 cases or students. And so we need to make sure that we keep the comma between after each variable. And then another comma after number 9, and then this is 10. If we click on OK, a new variable is generated for the proportion of the correct answer. We're going to ignore this value here for the total. So we can see here, this is the proportion for the correct answer achieved by individual by student for each individual question. To calculate the Q, which is the proportion of the wrong answer, click on transform, compute, and then reset this, and we're going to generate a target variable, call it Q. And for the Q, we're going just to use the formula, which is 1 minus the value that we had already calculated for P. Instead of calculating the wrong answer for each question and then divide that by the total number of the students, we are going to use this formula 1 minus P. Drag the P here and click on OK. A new variable is generated, which is the Q for the proportion of the wrong answers. Now the next step is to multiply the value of P with Q to generate a PQ. And the way to do that is to click on transform, compute variables, reset, and then we're going to do multiply P by Q, call the target variable PQ. And to do the multiplication is to select the P variable, then you select the multiplication symbol, then select the Q variable. Click on OK. All the P and Q variable for each individual question here is calculated. Now, following this equation here, we have managed to calculate the variance for the total score, the multiplication of P and Q. Now we need to calculate the sum of these P and Q. And the way to do that, if we are here in SPSS, click on Analyze, then click on Descriptive Statistics, then click on Frequencies. In the frequencies, we are going to select the P and Q and drag it into the variable. And we click on Statistics, and we're going to select the sum. So we're only interested in doing a sum, finding out the sum for the P multiplied by Q. The sum here is 3.42. If we double click on this table and then highlight and select and copy, and we're going to transfer this and place that here in this area, so for the value of 3.42. Now we had calculated all the necessary component of the KR KR20 equation or formula. The next step is to use a calculator to find out the KR20. And if we click on calculator, and in the calculator here I am going to first of all to determine the K. The K is the number of questions in the exam, and here we have 15 questions. So K is 15, and the K in this one will be 15. So it is 15 divided by 14. And using the calculator, I'm going to divide 3.4 over 2.4, 24.8. To find the product for that is to type here in this calculator 3.42 divided by 24.84 equal 2.1. This value is equal to 0.137. So I'm going to add here 1 minus 0.137. Again, if we go back again to the calculator, 0.137, so we're going to use just only 3 decimals, 0.137, and I'm going to subtract this number from 1, so minus 0.137 equal, that number will be equal to 0.86. So it will be here, generate another number here, it will be 0.86. So we need to multiply 0.86 by 15 divided by 14. And we're going to do that using this calculator. So we multiply this by 1.5 and then equal, divide that by 114, then click on equal, and we have here a value of 0.92. So eventually the KR20 for this exam, KR20 is equal to 0.92. So this indicates that the test or the exam is 92% reliable. If we go back again here into the SPSS, these 15 questions answered, multiple choice questions answered by the 10 students, this exam is 92% reliable. And the KR20 value ranges from 0 to 1. 0 means that the exam is unreliable. 1 means that the exam is extremely reliable and extremely excellent. So this is the way to calculate and determine the KR20 reliability for exam and test that only contains multiple choice questions. And the way to do that is to use the KR20 formula by calculating the number of questions in the exam and calculating the sum of P multiplied by Q. P stands for the proportion of correct answer, Q for the proportion of wrong answers, divided by the variance of the total score. And from the value of the KR20, the exam or the test will be labeled or classified as either reliable or not reliable.